Come on and sit back and relax. You're listening to episode 162 of the WealthTech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. This podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices all around wealth management technology. Our topic for this month is WealthTech Integration Leaders, where we speak to tech vendors who received a 10 out of 10 for their Ezra Group WealthTech Integration Score, which is a perfect score, by the way, 10 out of 10. And we thought it'd be helpful to talk to them, and you could hear more about their integration strategies, how they built their integrations, and their future roadmaps all around integrations of their technology with other applications. And if you are the CEO, CTO, or CEO, or other executive at a fintech firm with a software product that you're selling to the wealth management industry, you should run, not walk, to our website, EzraGroupLLC.com, and click the button to schedule a discovery session. Our WealthTech research team can deliver a wide range of market insights for your firm, including competitive analysis, addressable and obtainable market estimates, sales targeting, and insights on buying decisions, and more. Every vendor needs this data to be successful, especially when entering new markets, and you can get on the right track by going to EzraGroupLLC.com. And before we continue, please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. All right, now let's kick this thing off. I am super excited to introduce my next guest. It is Trent Mumma, EVP of Product from Orion Advisor Tech. Trent, welcome to the program.
Hey, Craig, super excited to be meeting with you today. So thanks for inviting me.
We are all super excited. Where are you calling in from, Trent?
Beautiful Omaha, Nebraska. So September is a fantastic month here in Nebraska. High 70s, low humidity. I encourage all the listeners to make a trip out to Nebraska in September. Put it on your bucket list.
Yeah, now is the time. It's like New Jersey. We were just joking that we tell people in New Jersey we get like 2 weeks of nice weather in the spring, then it's hot and muggy and crappy all summer. Then we get 2 weeks of nice weather in the fall, then it's sleet and freezing rain, and then it's winter, and then we barely thaw out and start over again. But you guys have it way worse than we do.
Yeah, I feel like I can relate to that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, cool. So thanks for being here. We've been trying to get this going for months. I'm glad we could fit into your schedule. You guys are super busy. There's so much going on with Orion. So can you please give us a 30-second elevator pitch for anybody who lives under a rock and doesn't know Orion Advisor Tech?
Yeah, so great question. We're a wealth tech provider that's really focused on the advisor client journey, right? And so what that means is, we've put together a fiduciary framework that we call Prospect, Plan, Invest, Achieve. And what that's really focused on is helping advisors grow their business through prospecting to new clients, communicating with those prospects, helping them with their financial plans, their goals, translating those goals into, investment outcomes that align, and then ultimately the ongoing reporting back, the achieve side, if you will, of the advisor stating their value, as part of that ongoing relationship and helping support that journey.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And this episode is part of our monthly topic for this month is integration leaders. And of course, everyone knows that Ezra Group launched our WealthTech Integration Score. And Orion is one of the leaders in integrations, and you've always have been ever since. I know we've been following integrations for a long time. This is the first time we've had a score and ability to validate integrations in a public way. And Orion is one of the only 9 vendors received the perfect score of 10 in our WealthTech Integration Score, and Orion was one of them. So that's why we have you on the program. We're talking integrations. So as I said, we've been following integrations in the wealth tech space for a long time, and Orion has always been one of the leaders. Can you talk about the history of integrations? Why did you guys decide to sort of get way ahead of the curve and build out some integrations so early in the process?
Yeah. So if you look back on the history, right, it really started around transmitting data back and forth through like flat files, right, which in many cases that was, leading to delayed experiences where, it might take a day or two before the data from one provider to another could, be input into the system. And so around a decade ago, we started really focusing on finding ways to integrate with other companies utilizing our API. And as a start, it was, the typical SSO, the authentication piece, and maybe some iframe, work that was in, which was at the time, it was cutting edge for our industry, right? But a lot of that's been normalized, right? And although the open source API and the direct integration has been a huge boom for our business, it's a big reason why we got a perfect score, right? With your matrix that you put together. We are, I believe, on the next frontier of integrations, and a lot of what we're talking about with Redshift and where that's going, and more access to real-time data, normalizing that data layer. It's going to be a really exciting time over the next couple of years as we see, just like we did around a decade ago, another big movement in the industry.
Yeah, when you talk about iframes, can you explain to people who maybe aren't as old as we are what an iframe is?
Yeah. So basically, think of it as like taking, a screen from one vendor, a particular component that they have, a feature that they have, and taking that iframe, if you will, that's that specific screen, and then plugging that experience into another vendor's technology to where it looks like it's embedded. You're not having to go from one piece of technology to the other through a separate tab, doing a separate login. It's fairly seamless. And in a lot of cases today, that's great, right? I mean, it works really well. And there's a lot of new ways to go about iframing now that even make it more seamless than what it was, several years ago. But folks are looking for it to be more contextual, right? And from a visual standpoint, the aesthetics of how the different technologies look, it's important that it's not what I call Frankenstein, right? Where it looks like, just two different things got together and they don't have the right look and feel at all. But, there's ways that you can normalize that as well, through a product language, through just the overall UI and UX, the aesthetics. But yeah, to answer your question, it's one experience framed into another experience without having to log in or a separate tab, or completes the circle, if you will.
Exactly, and we used to call it a fake integration because, as you mentioned, it's not really integrated. It's just showing the other vendor's application inside a piece of your window. So it's not integrated. It's not the same UI UX. You get completely different sets of menus and options, and it doesn't look anything like it. But you just have access to it in the same window.
Like a good example, and I tell my wife this all the time, a great iframed integration that probably everybody uses is Apple CarPlay. Apple CarPlay is, for the most part, it's iframed into the majority of cars, and you still see like the main navigation menu of whoever built your car, but the experience of Apple CarPlay is different, right? But it is iframed in.
So you talk to your wife about that all the time. What kind of conversations you guys having?
Well, she's still trying to figure out what exactly we do, right? what is WealthTech, and so I talked to her. I try to give her some examples that can help her to relate to what the day in the life of is that somebody works at Orion.
I can completely relate to that as a consultant. I have 3 daughters. They're all brilliant, but none of them knew what I did for the longest time. Yeah, so it took a while. Well, actually, I thought I made PowerPoint slides. That was what they thought I did, which is kind of true. But anyway, so I digress. So talking about history of integrations, at some point, so you guys had live integrations, but those were more point to point, where I want to integrate with Redtail. Okay, click here. Here's the Redtail integration. Now I want to integrate with Riskwise. Here's the Riskwise integration. But then, at what point did you open up your APIs, and why? What drove you to do that?
Yeah, the big thing around that was to help scale, right? So, we knew that we needed to allow the firms that were using the Orion technology to have choices, right? Whether the best risk analytics platform, the best CRM, the best trading integration, and obviously we hope that they always picked us for whatever we had built, but we also, weren't oblivious, and it was important to us that we support the best choice, right? Well, if the API is captive, if you will, or it's behind a closed box, then it makes it really difficult to be able to bring in all those different providers. It makes it difficult to be able to support that at scale. And so we opened up our API to folks that we wanted to invite within the Orion ecosphere and integrate with, and we supported those firms with developer documentation, with access to our squads and our developers that were utilizing the API internally. It's the same API that the entire Orion ecosphere is powered by, right? So by giving these external firms access to our subject matter experts that use those APIs day in and day out, it helps, speed up the development, helps speed up the integration. It also helps as they're putting together the use case for the experience that they're trying to create, having somebody that has already done that and be able to piece it together. And that's part of the reason why we were able to, just have a huge breadth, if you will, of vendors that we integrated with into our tech stack.
Yeah, and that's something we look for when we're evaluating firms. So we do a lot of evaluations of fintech firms. We work with them. We also work with their clients. And one of the things when they're talking about their APIs, when we're evaluating integrations, is do they use the same APIs internally that they offer externally? Right? It's a big tell. If they don't, the APIs really aren't very good. We call that eating your own dog food. Right? If you're building APIs, you better be using them internally. If you're just saying these are our external APIs only, well, they're probably not very good. You probably haven't tested them very well, and we're going to be the first ones to use them. So it's great you guys are doing that. What made you do that?
It's about scale, right? I mean, going back to what I mentioned before. So, if you have a separate set of APIs that you're utilizing with external vendors or your clients, from what we've seen in the industry, in most cases, those external clients and vendors, they're not able to get the data points or access to the data that they need, right? And part of that is because the development teams are trying to maintain two different sets of APIs, right? So one is obviously going to be out in front of the other. Updates would need to be made in both. It creates a lot of tech debt. It creates a lot of extra work, and so we've been committed to that strategy and making sure that everything we build, everybody has access to, and making sure that we are able to support that in a manner in which helps bring real value to not just external technology providers integrating in, but a lot of our clients integrate directly into our API as well. Pulling in data, or whether they've built their own client portal, they've built their own advisor portal, the list goes on and on, right? And so when we release something new and we're touting that in our release notes of, hey, this new feature function, it's important to them that they have access to that in real time.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys have come such a long way. I was looking at my notes. My first demo of your platform was in 2013, right? So, and it was a Salesforce, overlay. And since then, you've completely, separated from Salesforce, built out a complete end-to-end platform, made lots of acquisitions, and now you're one of the leaders in the industry. So, with all these integrations you've built, how many clients are using them at the moment?
I'd say it's close to 3/4 of our clients, right? So if there's roughly 2,500 unique firms using the tech stack today, right? So the number is high. And looking at that, CRM is the number one, right? Specifically Redtail. Redtail is the number one integration that we have. It's also one of the oldest integrations that we have in the sense of a partner, which they're obviously part of the Orion brand now, but a partner that we worked with, over a decade ago on doing some of this stuff with. But we also see, high adoption of the integrations around risk, right? So the risk analytics like Riskalyze, that's another really popular one. That's a great integration. And then after that, and this is more behind the scenes, but a lot of the data providers like, Morningstar as an example, right? And the data that they provide that, our advisors are able to put on their reports, those are also extremely highly adopted.
So interesting. I love this kind of stuff. So just trying to see what people are using, what the trends are. And so those are external integrations, which are super helpful for a lot of your clients. But let's talk about internal integrations. You guys have been on a bit of a buying spree, bought a bunch of different companies recently to expand your capabilities in a lot of different areas. How are those internal integrations going, and what are you learning from building those out?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a super exciting time here at Orion, right? So, obviously those companies that we've acquired and merged with, the first thing I want to note on that is just the talent, the folks that were a part of those organizations that are here today. They're all very bright. They're all very passionate. And the blending of the cultures of the different companies has been really exciting, and seeing that. But we've been, really focused on bringing all this together as part of our prospect plan, invest, achieve framework, that I spoke about at the beginning here. And there's been some quick wins, some quick things that we've been able to roll out fairly nearly right away after some of the acquisitions. So like, as an example, on the hidden leverage side, we rolled out their proposal tool to folks that were using our custom indexing solution or our model marketplace, right? We, on the red tail side, we just recently integrated in our portfolio view. So that's the screen in Orion that advisors use to slice and dice and analyze a specific client, a household. And that is now iframed into red tail, right? It looks great. It's seamless. So within red tail, there's a contextual record that you can search for somebody within the CRM and pull them up in portfolio view and look at their goals for planning. You can look at their risk statistics, the hidden levers. You can look at their performance, their gain loss, all of it within one screen, right? Which is those have been some nice quick wins that we've had. But long term, there's a couple big focus items. Number one, and probably the most important from my perspective, is normalizing the data layer of all of these systems. And why that's important is, like, for instance, the hidden levers tool, which we call Orion Risk Intelligence now, it has its own performance calculations that are separate than the portfolio accounting system, Orion's core performance calculation tool. And normalizing those data points and getting those together is important. We have many different systems that have what a prospect is. So on the CRM side with red tail, or even in Orion Risk Intelligence, it has an entity of a prospect. Our planning tool has an entity of a prospect. And having just one prospect source that feeds everywhere is really important. And we feel if we can normalize the data layer and have the data layer of all the tools talking to one another, they're all in sync in real time, then we have an opportunity to create a tremendous experience overall for our user base. And so to do that, we're in the process of moving a lot of our different data sets from those different pieces of technology to Redshift, streaming real-time updates with Kafka from to Redshift, so that way all the data is there, and then having those different systems call the Redshift data in real time, so that way they're all in sync. And that's something that's been underway for a while. We've made some great steps with that, and it's something that we're going to continue to execute on in 2023. Couple other things that I think are worth mentioning as well. So we have some really exciting features that we're going to be promoting here in Q4 of this year and early in 2023 around risk analytics and integrating in Basis Code, the compliance platform that we purchased around a year ago. And a lot of folks don't get excited when people talk about compliance, but there's a lot of rules changes that are out there right now. And when I go to conferences, when I talk to our advisors, compliance is top of mind, where they need help, and specifically what they need help with is more real-time analytics of their data around like share class selection of mutual funds, right? Making sure that when new accounts are transferring in, that they're looking at that and they're aware of what share class of mutual funds the client is in. And if they need to get them out of that, they're able to do that. The SEC's, there's been a lot of fines this year for that specifically, right? And we're bringing to market a solution that helps bring that into perspective in much more of a real-time manner with an integration with the custodians that we're really excited about.
That's excellent. So going back to something you mentioned, so Hidden Levers is now called Orion Risk Intelligence, right? So
Yep.
One thing a lot of people don't realize, of course, everyone knows Hidden Levers has stress testing. I think that's what they're best known for, their stress testing tools. But one thing people don't realize is that they also have a very popular proposal tool. In fact, I think 40 or 50% of Hidden Levers clients purchase them for the proposal tool, which is really interesting. So it kind of flies under the radar. Are you integrating that as well, or is that going to go away and only being able to use the Orion portfolio tool?
No, it's a great question. I'm actually wondering if you work for Orion now, since you have those statistics. But
well, they told us that when we were on a meeting, they told us public information, right?
Yeah. But you're right. Yeah. So the proposal workflow that is in Hidden Levers or Orion Risk Intelligence now, it is highly adopted, and it's separate than the stress testing piece, as you mentioned. I kind of touched on it during the previous question, but that's actually one of the things that we worked right away after the acquisition of Hidden Levers to integrate into the Orion tech stack. Mm-hmm. So actually today, all of the firms that are signed up to use, Orion Tech today have access to that proposal tool, and they can utilize it through an integration with our model marketplace or our trading and rebalancing platform, Eclipse. And then they have the ability to upgrade from there if they would like to add on the stress testing or more of the risk analytics portion of the platform if they'd like.
So how does that work with Eclipse? How does that integration work?
Yeah, so there's a really, really nice, simple workflow through the Hidden Levers proposal tool around hey, let's take the prospect, and then, they go through a risk tolerance questionnaire to be able to define the risk. And then from there, where it integrates in is from the models store, right? So whether they're the models that the advisor is manually maintaining, or it's part of our model marketplace, models like BlackRock or the Brinker models, whatever it may be, those are all accessible and are part of the integration, to where then the advisor can select one of those strategies, assign it to the client, and then, depending on their workflow, it might sleeve it out into a UMA that then goes into Eclipse to be able to be traded, or it could just be a single account strategy, right? And then Eclipse takes care of the execution and the ongoing maintenance of the trading rebalancing side of that process.
That sounds great. I almost wish I was running an advisory firm so I could check it out or test it.
We can give you a demo, Craig.
Awesome. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
So going back to something else you mentioned, Redtail iframing in the Orion portfolio view. So is there any other things coming? So you talked about a lot of cool stuff that Redtail clients can access if they're also Orion clients. Do you have anything else planned for that?
Yeah. So, one thing I mentioned already as part of that is we are taking Redtail and having it integrate through the Redshift data store, if you will. So that's getting, all the data elements from the CRM and the portfolio accounting system on the same page. That's that data normalization, piece I talked about earlier, which will be really important from an experience standpoint. We also, on the Redtail side, they have a really great document storage tool that they call imaging. And that document storage tool, is a big need for folks, especially when you think about on the Orion side with like our investor portal or our client portal. There's document storage there. There's document storage within our portfolio accounting solution. where like, for instance, custodial statements are stored, so on and so forth. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're going to normalize that and have, one centralized document storage tool that's Redtail imaging that's available, for everybody to use. And then when a document's updated in one place, it's updated everywhere, right? And all the different entry points. And so that's a big thing that we're excited about. The other thing that we're going to be doing here later is we have a marketing campaign tool that we launched a couple years ago that we called Marketer, and Marketer's seen a lot of success. But one of the things that we're going to be doing is a bit of an overhaul, a pretty exciting enhancement path that we're going to bring to market in Q4, and that'll be something that'll be tightly integrated into Redtail, into the CRM, right? It makes sense to have that workflow, tightly integrated there. And we're really excited about what that's going to look like and the value that that's going to bring.
Yeah, and of course, we don't want to fail to mention the Redtail acquisition, which is huge and brings in thousands of clients and thousands of overlapping clients and thousands of non-overlapping clients where there's some sales opportunities. So the more you can integrate, the easier it is for Redtail clients to see the capabilities that they're missing in other Orion tools.
For sure.
You mentioned normalizing data across all products. This is a huge undertaking. Something that's kind of never finishes, right? What other advantages will there be? Will you be putting in, will everything be merging all the data? Because I've always wondered why we have separate silos for everything. It's kind of because we've always done it that way. We've always had CRM data in the CRM database and financial planning data in the financial planning database and so on. Why can't there just be one database? Is that your goal, one database for everything?
It is. So think of all these different platforms we're talking about almost as like microservices, right? And if you were to have a bit of a spider web, if you will, on the screen, all these different platforms sit on the outside, and in the middle of the spider web sits Redshift, or it's basically a data lake. And basically what we do is we use an events trigger from the different platforms, from Hidden Levers, the portfolio accounting system, Orion Connect, Redtail, Eclipse, communities, all the different things that we have in our ecosphere. And as events are made, those sync in real time up to Redshift, to where it's a central repository of everything, right? And then when those different platforms need data, as clients are using them, as they're logging in, whether it's performance data, it's account data, everything's talking on the same page. It all has the same data points, right? We actually just wrapped up last week, Craig, a conference out in Utah, our Fuse event. And that event, primary focus was on this piece of our data strategy, our partnership with AWS and Redshift. AWS had about a dozen people at the conference. It was small, and we spent a lot of time talking with our top firms, talking with custodial partners about how we can try to normalize this data and bring it all together. And then, allowing our clients to spin up their own Redshift clusters, right? To where it has all this data that I just talked about, that is from Orion, but also they're able to put in, their financial data for maybe QuickBooks, right, into the same data set. And just the power of it all being there in real time and not stale, it's really endless in the sense of the possibilities of what these firms can do with the data and the experience that we can provide within, our subset of what we help them with.
I really like the Fuse conferences. I think I went to the one in Miami like 5 years ago, and that was a great example of how you guys are encouraging integrations. You're encouraging people to build stuff off your platform, on top of your platform, on top of your ecosystem, and expand and extend it, which is really the wave of the future, and the opposite of the way the industry used to be, which was very closed and secretive. Hey, you can't see inside our technology. It's our proprietary information, as opposed to, hey, take what you want. We're all in this together. We're all going to benefit if you can build more stuff off of our platform.
Right. Yep. No, it's a great summary there.
So wrapping things up. One more thing I want to talk about was unified managed accounts. Now that's always been a big topic in our industry. It's a very complicated a program. It requires some very complicated portfolio management, portfolio accounting. And you guys recently, well, not recently anymore, but purchased Brinker, which was a big provider of UMAs. How did you do that integration into your core platform from what Brinker was doing?
Yeah, this is a great question. And, probably what I spent most of late 2020 all the way through midway 2021 doing personally was working on that project. But so around about 7 years ago here at Orion, we launched what we call sleeves, right? Which is, in some cases, they're called virtual accounts or sub accounts. But basically what it was is the architecture to take that single custodial account and split that single record up into, multiple accounts on the Orion platform, even though it's only one at the custodian, and be able to manage the cash flows, contributions, distributions, single set rebalancing where, hey, on just one of these sleeves, we're just going to rebalance that one sleeve and not touch the others. So again, we rolled that out about 7 years ago, and it had been highly adopted. There had been several of our clients that we had partnered with to help expand that out over the years. But there was a couple things that were missing from that piece of technology that we had. And part of what, when the Brinker team came aboard, they really helped us with. First being was the ability to put, an outside managed SMA in the UMA, right? And what the workflow is for that. And, so we build out what we call an SMA portal where, our technology advisors today have access through our community's platform to different SMA providers that, they can link to into their UMAs. So maybe it's like a fixed income SMA as an example. And then from there, that SMA portal, it sends data out every day to those SMA providers. So that way they can make the trades that they need. The trading solution within Orion Eclipse is smart enough to know that that piece of the UMA is being managed outside. It has the ability to be updated intraday from those outside managers. And so that piece was really big, right? The second part of it, we have a lot of firms, that utilize the technology today, but it takes a completely different skill set to maintain that day in and day out. And as Craig, it's a lot different than managing, one account by itself, right? And part of what the Brinker team did is they helped bring, that expertise, to our user base. And so we do offer an outsourced solution in which, our trade desk can help implement these UMAs for firms, right? And help with the construction of the portfolios, help with the ongoing management of cash and cash in and cash out and the actual trading and execution. What we saw from a lot of folks is it's like, hey, we understand what this is. We know that a lot of the top firms in the industry are using it, but we don't know how to necessarily get started. And previously, before Brinker, we had the tech to help them do that, right? But now actually having a service that they can sign up for that helps take it off their hands and allows them to go focus on their relationships with their clients. It's been really beneficial. We have just a stat for you, Craig. We have close to 2 million accounts as part of the UMA platform today. So in 7 years, there's been a lot of accounts added to it.
Are those 2 million UMA accounts with multiple sleeves, or are they some sort of single sleeve UMA or something hybrid?
It's counting all the sleeves. Yeah. So there's 2 million sleeves on the platform today.
UMA sleeves.
Yep.
That's tremendous. Do you know what the AUM is on that?
I don't off the top of my head, but one of the things I can say is a lot of the top firms that we work with, that this is what they do. A lot of the top AUM firms, or they have it as a subset of their business, right? Where maybe not everything is UMA. And so, yeah, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it would be high. The AUM number would be very high.
Yeah, we work with a lot of firms. I mean, we were one of the earliest consulting firms that supported UMA implementations and configuration of systems. So we've been working with UMA for almost 15 years and seen the progression over the years. And yeah, as you mentioned, there are some firms that have UMA as a sideline, as just one small program. Some broker-dealers use UMA as a stepping stone for outside advisors that they bring on to their system, so they don't have to liquidate their accounts. They can just move them into the UMA. Others have embraced UMA as the core chassis for all their programs, and they have single sleeve UMAs where they'll put a mutual fund wrap into one sleeve. So the client doesn't know the difference that they're in a single sleeve UMA. They just see their mutual fund wrap. And then if they, at some point, they move to a higher level of assets, they can then add more sleeves and add SMAs and things like that. So it saves a lot of repapering. But UMA is improving. Do you see, clearly you guys see UMA as an imperative that you need to support and as a part of the industry that's growing quickly?
Yeah. I appreciate touching on all those use cases. You're 100% spot on, right? And what you mentioned is really part of the beauty of the UMA and the technology behind it, assuming it's implemented correctly, is the flexibility, and the use cases that it's able to help solve for. And so it's been really exciting partnering with a lot of our firms on building that out over the years. There's been a lot of success stories and watching a lot of firms grow with it. And we're really pleased with what we worked on, a year, 2 years ago as part of the Brinker acquisition, like what we talked about, and just some different things that we're talking about and speaking with other firms on what they need. And as the needs continue to expand or evolve and change, and how we can continue to support that.
Trent, we've run out of time. You've said it all. I really appreciate it. Can you tell people where they can find more information about Orion?
Orion.com. Yeah, Orion.com. Also, we've got some great content out on LinkedIn as well, so you can follow us on there.
Can't be easier than that, Orion.com. Trent, thank you so much for being here.
Craig, I appreciate the invite and the conversation. It's been fantastic.
Hey, it's Craig again. Here are my 3 takeaways from this episode. When it comes to integrations, one size shoe doesn't fit everyone. Great comment from Trent. Yeah, it's not the same for everyone. Every integration isn't the same. Your integrations need to be contextual. You need to know which ones work best for which type of product. It's also important to analyze and review why you're building something and what you need to build. Number 2, they're eating their own dog food. I know I've said this a million times in other podcasts, but firms that build out APIs have to use them internally as well. If they're only building them for external use, they're just not going to be as functional. They're not going to be as well supported, well documented, or well tested, really. So the fact that Orion is using their own APIs internally, super good for them. Number 3, normalizing data across all their products. This is part of their partnership with Amazon and Redshift, Kafka, that they're working on. So they're basically taking all their acquisitions and moving all the data from all their products into one giant data lake or data system, database, data warehouse, and normalizing it across all the products. Something else I also have mentioned many times in the past is, why do we have so many data silos? The reason is we've always had wealth management data in the portfolio management platform, financial planning data in the financial planning platform, CRM data in the CRM planning platform, and so on and so forth, risk data in the risk platform. And it looks like Orion is moving all of that into one location. As I mentioned, one database to rule them all, like the Lord of the Rings for databases. And it makes sense. Everything in the same place, you're going to normalize it. It's going to be easier to manage. It's going to be easier to analyze information across different applications, different data sets, and also easier to scale the business. And that's it. That's what I got from this episode. You've made it to the end. Thanks for listening. Please go to our website, EzraGroupLLC.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, analysis, links. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.